This is Basket Case Clubs, CBR Group's podcast where we turn basket case clubs into showcase clubs. Hello everyone and welcome back to Basket Case Clubs. I'm Michael Connolly and it is my pleasure to once again be your host on this journey of basket casey goodness. Joining me again is my brother and now I can't say partner in basket casey goodness because I've already spilled the basket casey goodness basket. So Steve Connolly.
I'm here. I'm in the basket. I'm in the basket. Thanks for having me. Thanks for joining us. We're live together again, which is excellent.
And isn't it funny, Steve, that we just miraculously happened to wear the same clothes this week? It's been a whole week, and obviously we've been through that wardrobe cycle, and here we are again in the same gear.
Entirely coincidental. Yes.
The magic of it's not really a movie. The magic of web video thinging. Is that a word? I've just made it up. Web video thinging. If you Google that,
it is now.
If you Google that, you'll now find Basket Case Clubs. And hey, you're now a listener. Welcome. Anyway. Last time we went on a little journey about, really what we're trying to talk about here is making more money. Steve, what I want to tell you is something that I came across when I was a little younger.
I thought you were going to say something that you came across since our last episode. Yeah. Which would still be true when you were a little younger. Carry on.
Well, yes. I was a little younger, yes. So when I was at university, me and my friendship group, which had another one of our brothers in it, by the way, went through a bit of a Billy Connolly phase. And for some reason, Billy Connolly had a lot of good material. And a lot of it should stick in my head, but there's one thing that always sticks in my head, and it's probably because of how I now work in the not-for-profit sector, and I have to talk about money all the time. And this topic about making more money, even despite your business model, like the not-for-profit business model or business, comes up all the time. It might have something to do with me bringing it up all the time, and maybe that's got something to do with this bit that I remember. Anyway, it was Billy Connolly complaining about algebra. And he said, the teacher said, I shouldn't do a Scottish accent. So for our Scottish friends, I apologise. Connolly, what's 1A plus 1B? He says, what? 1A plus 1B? I know you got it right. And he used a lot of more F's in there and probably sounded a little less from the subcontinent.
A little more Scottish.
From Scotland. You've got it wrong. One's a number, one's a letter. They're not right. And he said, what's the point of algebra anyway? He said, when you go to school, you shouldn't learn algebra, like how to add a number and a letter and a letter. And it's just stupid. What they should teach you at school is two things: how to get laid and how to make shitloads of dough. So that, and I've always remembered that from when I was at uni going through our Billy Connolly phase. We would stay up far too late on a Friday night watching Billy Connolly and laughing at the most stupid, but they were good jokes. But that's one that stuck. And I thought, yeah, actually.
You're not far wrong.
Given the shortcomings in our education system and this national curriculum that still hasn't risen up to Billy Connolly's standards, we are going to carry the mantle. Carry the mantle? Carry the flame? We are going to burn the good fight. And we are going to teach our clubs how to make shitloads of dough.
Shit jokes included.
Shit joke, no, they're free. They're free. Value adding. So last episode was all about the mindset shift. You've got to change the way that you think about what you're doing before you are in a position to be able to think about how to make more money. So for a start, you can't think we're not allowed to make money. We can't make money. It's not what we do. You have to think we are in business. And I never, ever am I going to back down from that. And I think you're the same. It's business. It's just a not-for-profit business. And so when we talk about our members, I very often, and sometimes I know that I'm being provocative in doing so, I call them customers. And in sport, who are the customers?
Mums and dads.
And?
Players.
There you go. So you've actually got two straight away.
Yep.
And the payer, the person who pays, mum and dad, is not necessarily the recipient of the service.
Yep.
So why do they pay? Because they see value in it. So it's like the piano that's sitting next to me. Now, I never used to teach piano because I'm crap at it, but I did used to teach guitar. And when I would wonder, why are these parents bringing their kids back and they're still shit? Like, it's Jingle Bells, for crying out loud. Why can't you? G, C, D, E. Like, why can't you do that? And it takes them a whole year because the parents see value in it. It's culture. Parents see value in their kids learning a new skill, learning teamwork, learning hard work. And so that's why they keep coming back. So understanding that they're customers and understanding that they're different customers, but who's paying the bill and who do you need to demonstrate the value to? Now, if you demonstrate...
Not the kid's got to enjoy it. Or at
you
least
still need to demonstrate the value to them.
Yeah.
But you've got to demonstrate the value to both. It can't just be the kid. So how can you demonstrate value to a kid, to actually the young player that makes mum and dad still want to pay? The payer, young player, older payer.
Yep.
If you can instill such a love of, in the case of me teaching guitar, or in the case of sport, whatever the sport is, that the kids are dying to get back. The journey to football doesn't start when we get to the football field. The journey to football starts when the kids start nagging mum and dad, hurry up, we need to get in the car, So that's why, and this is why this episode is so important, or this topic is so important, because God knows how many episodes it's going to be, increasing this maxi series. It's the whole picture. The value proposition isn't only football. It's football plus everything else that the customers value. And remember, who determines value?
Always the buyer.
The buyer, not the seller. Now, if the seller says, oh, this demonstrates great value for money, it's the buyer that can call BS on it, because it's the buyer that has to perceive that value. Now, that's really, really important as we go through some of these strategies. So what we want to share today are some very, very practical strategies for making more money. The Billy Connolly curriculum, if you like. How to make,
or at least the latter part thereof. Maybe we'll leave the first one
let's
out.
leave the other part. Yeah, sorry, I forgot that there were two parts to that. Let's start with rule number 1 when it comes to
I have no idea where this is going now. Yes, good. Okay.
I'm not talking about number ones, as in going number 1.
Yep.
Rule number 1, if you charge fees, before you go looking for more ways to make money, collect your fees. Make sure that the money that people owe you is being paid.
I reckon this is a lot less of a problem than it was 10 years ago.
It definitely is a lot less of a problem than it was. It's a lot less of a problem than it was 5 years ago, because 5 years ago was 2019. It's called COVID-19 because that's when we found it. And it really hit us in 2020.
Yep, it did.
So it was 2020 that you can't touch money because money has COVID, apparently. I thought it was transmitted by bodily fluids, not money. Oh, you cough on your money. Yes. Anyway,
Fat money.
See, all of the good decisions that we made through COVID, hey?
So, and it's also, even COVID definitely expedited things.
The shift to electronic payments and electronic receipts.
And that's it, away from cash. But it's also, I think, a symptom of, particularly for our larger sports, the centralized membership model.
Yeah.
Where you're paying, in a lot of cases, not all cases, but a lot of cases, you're paying the national body, and the money then finds its way down to the club. And while it still happens, and certainly still happens in some of our smaller sports where it's up to the clubs to do all of that money management themselves, where we have more sophisticated membership systems like that, you can't be in the system unless you're paid.
Yep.
So, which I think is great, because, and I know that we have harped on about this in our podcast and in our work directly with clubs in the past. But even though we all recognise that you can't go to Coles and walk out with an IOU, you have to pay at the checkout to take your goods. The same is true when you receive a service, that you have to pay the invoice of the service provider. Yet in the world of volunteer-run clubs, the treasurer and other members of the committee or people charged with collecting fees have for so long been uncomfortable having that discussion about the overdue fees. And I know that we've both worked personally with plenty of clubs where it'll get to that cutoff date, whether it's 30 June or some other date in the year, by when everyone has to have paid their fees, or you can't take the field. Yet
Yep.
that date comes and goes, and all the players continue to take the field having not paid their membership fees. So I think it's great that we're seeing technological advances which mean that clubs are less responsible for collecting the fees in the first place, but there's still absolutely work in some cases to be done. And I couldn't agree more strongly with you that the first rule is absolutely collect your fees. Don't have any reluctance in having that discussion. And it shouldn't even be a difficult discussion because your organization is providing a service for which a fee is payable.
There's a contract.
The season start date is set. The season end date is set. You can't change those dates because someone's not ready to pay. So the opposite shouldn't be true either. And if the club doesn't collect enough of its fees and it can't pay its bills as and when they fall due, the shit really hits the fan.
Yeah.
We've got an insolvency situation.
Insolvency.
Yep.
One of the big challenges that the people in that position felt, and you've probably heard this, is I didn't join the committee to become a debt collector.
Yeah.
So that's why where you went about the contractual arrangement between a member and the club is critical here. If we are meeting our side of this bargain because you said you'd pay us a year's subscription and we would give you a year's worth of sport.
Yep.
We're meeting our end of the bargain. You've got to meet yours. And so instead of having that conversation, and I acknowledge that for a volunteer who is uncomfortable with confrontational situations, we have a lot of people in the world of volunteering who are uncomfortable with confrontational situations. And that's demonstrated by the very fact that they're there. They took the job on knowing it would drive them to burnout and it would cost them family time and work time and a social life. Yet they still took it on because they didn't want to see the club fail.
Yep.
So we know that they are empathetic people, maybe even sympathetic people to a fault in many cases. And so they don't want to have a confrontational situation because that's why they got involved in the first place. Wow, I've only just realized that. I've never codified it like that previously. But part of the reason that we are such shy people on committees is because we didn't want to see our club get in trouble and we didn't want to have a fight with the rest of the members who would push, so we just put our hand up or left it up when somebody else lifted it up for us.
Yeah. Yep. Profound, man.
Profundity at its best.
We do a lot of work in golf, and there's a couple of interesting points that I want to make about golf. Golf clubs, compared to a lot of the other sporting clubs with which we work, in a lot of cases, have annual fees that are higher. Now, what's expensive is a subjective consideration.
People buy on value, not price.
Absolutely. Yep. Nevertheless, some of the really successful clubs with which we work recognise that some people might struggle to front up with the total annual membership fee at the start of the year, or the start of the membership year, whatever theirs might be. So they say, pay us monthly, pay us a couple of times a year, and they set up very clear-cut payment plans, which work really well. So other clubs outside the world of golf have also done this, in many cases, recognising that they're typically charging less fees. And this is the gym model, where you pay a little bit each week. Over the course of the year, you pay your annual fee, but you don't really notice it hitting your hip pocket too hard.
Is part of the reason that works at the gym and the golf club because they have good systems and they're doing direct debit. And they're just going in and taking the money. There's no action that's required from the customer or some poor sorry sap of a volunteer that has to. I don't know if you remember the rugby league club where the poor treasurer had to be at the club every single night there was training,
collecting
and every
cash
single
at the table,
just in case people came to pay off part of their fees.
Which of course they didn't.
Sometimes they did, but it was
night.
$5. It was up to them how much they would feel comfortable paying.
Yeah, that's shit.
And we're talking about a season of rugby league here for $150 or something.
Yep.
So my question is, why would you have a payment plan for a $5,000 golf club membership?
Yep.
Great idea.
Yep.
Because hopefully a $5,000 golf club membership club has those systems in place where it's not going to cost a volunteer time to go and take the money.
Absolutely.
Yes. Have to be there to collect bloody cash.
Yeah. But the other really interesting point on finances is that COVID, and you know, I've heard this pun used a few times. COVID was a shot in the arm for golf. COVID.
There are some politicians who are golfers who said, we got to be allowed to play golf.
Gotta be able to do something.
Can't play AFL, but for some reason you can play golf as long as you're in a cart on your own and you've got the front windscreen.
That's
up,
it.
So you're getting a lot of ventilation. There we go.
And we were
solved
fortunate.
COVID.
Yeah, Queensland, we were fortunate in other states, particularly, you know, our southern counterparts, things were locked down, even in the world of golf. Nevertheless, golf, broadly speaking, has enjoyed a real resurgence in interest, participation, and club membership to an extent also. Now, what we're seeing, or what I'm seeing personally, and others in our team are seeing this as well, is that those clubs have this newfound confidence and a mindset of abundance. So while it's really tough, you know, pre-2019 in some clubs' cases, to get people to pay their fees, or, you know, people are dragging the chain on their payment plans and so on. All of a sudden, now we've got this resurgence in interest, and we've got a whole lot more people who are really keen to play golf, whether that's as social green fee paying members or as players or as members of the club. So we have experienced this change in mindset amongst the decision makers in these clubs, where they're saying, hold on, people are keen to be playing. They're keen to be paying to play. Therefore, we should be a little more confident in setting and collecting our fees. So it's been this interesting byproduct of the fact that clubs are doing better now, but they're recognizing themselves the value of their offering, because people are more willing to pay for whatever that offering is. So it's a really interesting
And if somebody
situation.
is a bad customer and is going to crack the shits and say, well, how dare you come at me for my money, bro? There's
a great reason to have that discussion in the hope that they There's a great reason to have that discussion in the hope that they leave the club altogether.
Yeah, exactly. Because when they go, then and this was through COVID, when there was a wait list, they're freeing up a spot for somebody who's going to say, yes, take my money, take my money.
Exactly.
Which is like, when you draw a picture of the ideal member, isn't that them? They don't complain, they pay on time, they help. And if they don't help, they pay handsomely enough.
That's right. Yeah.
So so the payment plan concept is something that I question the value of the payment plan concept when you're only collecting a small amount of money.
Yep.
What is a small enough amount of money? Well, that's relative, because it's going to depend on, and look, it is also going to depend on people's ability to front up with that much money. But how much money? Now, I'm going to be a bit of an asshole and say the people who bitch and moan about paying 150, 200 bucks, 250, 300 bucks in membership fees for their kids to play sport, quite often are the same people who'll blow that on a night on the piss on Saturday. So sometimes you just got to call it for what it is and say, if we're a club of 700 members, and I'm thinking to the club where I was at, now I have to say last week, it was still last night, but for the magic of movies, it was last week. Quite a big club, but they're still operating as if they need to care and nurture every single person.
Right.
Now, it becomes a different business as you grow, and we'll talk through that. We'll talk about taking your club to the next level and what that actually means, because it's an exciting discussion. And it's more about business models, the business model of sport. But if you are at that size, you have to have a different sort of mindset. And especially as a committee member, we've got people in the club at that size, some of them who should be paid to be making sure that we've got our good systems, our membership management system, our cash collection system is all up to scratch. But if we've got 700 members and we've got payment plans like the rugby league club, where everyone just pays off what they think they should be paying off, and there's no structure to it, then we've got 700 people and 700 systems. We've got 700 people and 700 sweetheart deals and no system. That's actually the problem. So we need to have a system, but if it's the sort of money that you can blow on a Friday night on the piss, I'm questioning whether it's valuable, whether there's any actual value in having a payment plan. If you, and this is where I was getting at the end of the last episode, if you genuinely have people experiencing hardship that you genuinely want to help, you know the best way to help them is not to come up with some stupid sweetheart deal that changes per person. It's to run a solid enough business that you can make a shit ton of money that then enables you to establish a scholarship fund. And we have set criteria for this scholarship fund, which means that people, particularly Indigenous people from regional and remote areas of Australia, can come and play sport because we've got a business model that supports that. Not only do we have a business model that supports that, we've got a business model that can nurture people from regional and remote communities coming and participating, and then we don't spit them out, chew them up, spit them out, and throw them back out into community with nothing when they reach the end of their playing career. We can actually even offer them careers in sport because we're thinking about, this is not soapboxy, this is passionate. Like this is the stuff that I've become emotionally connected to this stuff because you and I have both worked in some pretty shit parts of the country. Like as far as the scenery goes, this is incredible, but we have seen things because of our ability to travel with work that are heartbreaking. And this is something that we can do. And if we can share this with, I've had this bit of a rant with people from councils. I've had this bit of a rant with people from regional associations, state associations, right down to small clubs. And it has made a difference. There are some communities, and I take zero credit for it because I don't implement. I just come up with, I don't even come up with anything. I'm just sharing ideas that I've seen work elsewhere and share those because, like I say all the time, I want to die with no secrets. I want to share everything because there should be no secrets. We're not really in competition with each other. And if we genuinely want to help, the first thing we've got to do is run a good enough business. Believe enough in the business that you're running, the business of sport, collect the fees that you need to collect, get all of the other money that we'll talk about now in the next episode from all of the other business units that can make us that money. But it's not unfair because people can say, well, how can you offer free membership to somebody from community just because they're from community? That's not what it's about. This is about equity. We have so many people in Australia who don't get access to, I'm bitching about sport. They don't have freaking clean water. Like we can do something here. So it's about strengthening our mindset, like we talked about in the last episode. And then working out what we can do to better support our own business so that we can make enough money so that we can then do genuine good. Now, how is that for purpose? Like, what's our purpose? Our purpose is to provide sporting opportunities for everyone who wants to play football, golf, rugby league, touch football, whatever it is. How about we want to break down barriers to people being able to live beyond 50 in regional Australia? Wow. Like that's why that's
sport can
the shit that
achieve
gets
that.
me out of bed on a Monday morning.
And sport can achieve that, especially in a country like Australia where we're fortunate to have due attention placed on the social, emotional, health, physical, mental well-being outcomes that can be delivered through sport. That's a reality that you can actually achieve those things. But if you are just getting by and you're just doing things the same old way that your predecessors on the management committee did them, and you're not considering your business in the context of all that it could achieve, then you're not going to be able to capitalize on that opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's easy. We recognize that it's easy for us to say these things, but we only say them because we've actually seen the clubs that are achieving real difference and are making these decisions and inroads to real change because people thought differently.
I think I'm having another, what did you say it was?
Epiphone.
Another epiphany. No, they're all Gibsons actually. What did you say it was? Profound. Another profundity.
Another profundity.
I'm having another profound. This is so much more, I think, of the purpose that drives me and my work with CPR Group than just sport. And what you were saying about it's all well and good for us to say this, but what makes me so passionately driven about this stuff is that I have seen it work. And then when I get to a club that is struggling with stupid little things like referees demanding to be paid in cash. Like, seriously, you're going to let the tail wag the dog? No, we're not going to do that. Why do your referees want to be paid in cash? Oh, because the Referees Association have said that if they collect the money as an electronic funds transfer, they'll have to be charging us GST because they're registered for GST. Then they'll have to pay that money out and they won't be able to claim the GST back. So they don't want to do it because they don't want to pay the GST. You know what that's called, Steve? Tax evasion. You know what happens to people who evade tax? One of two things. They either go to jail or they go to Mallorca and get a little breathing machine. For those of you old enough to remember that, you can look at, you know what I'm talking about. Look it up. Who went to Mallorca with a breathing machine? Oh, anyway, and whether or not that person was evading tax, I don't know. But it's a criminal offense, man. Like, it frustrates me that clubs are having arguments about stupid little things instead of driving a strong enough business that can actually drive real meaningful change in families and in communities. That's what drives me.
Rant over.
So if you're not already connected with us on on all of our social channels, you can get there. We'll put the links to all of our social channels in the description to the episode. And thanks to Jess, of course, for cutting out all of the bits that people haven't seen or listened to and therefore won't get to unless she's making a bloopers reel. I don't think it would be appropriate.
A year long
Any sort of consumption. And of course, sign up to our newsletter, follow us there as well. Steve, thank you for joining me on this Basket Casey goodness journey. It has been a lot of goodness. And those clubs are the showcase clubs. You know, those are the ones that we're trying to turn our clubs into. We're trying to move them from just the boredom of mediocrity into what can be showcasey goodness.
Agreed.
Until next time, Steve, thanks again. See you next time.
Thank you.
Basket Case Clubs acknowledges the traditional custodians of the country on which we record, being Yugambeh, Turrbal, Jagera and Kabi Kabi land. We recognise their enduring connection to land, waters and culture, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to First Nations listeners.